Over the years, Etsy has changed a lot, and there's never been a better time to start a print-on-demand shop selling on Etsy. You can sell unique products and have exposure to millions of people on the platform of Etsy who are going there to find those unique products, whether they are shirts or hoodies or mugs or wall art or anything like that. And by using the print-on-demand method, you're able to iterate on your designs very, very quickly. You're able to avoid having inventory, which gives you a much lower overhead, which means less upfront money and therefore less risk to get started and way easier to iterate on those designs. And so in this video, we partnered up with Gelato to show you how to get started with print on demand on Etsy, which, as I mentioned, has changed a lot. And I'll show you some of the new tools that are available, what's a little bit different on Etsy and on Gelato, and a lot of the really cool ways that you can avoid the old school mockups where they just kind of paste the photo on some model and everybody has the same looking one all over like all of Etsy. It's very easy to avoid that now, either by buying samples at a discounted rate, which I'll show you how to do in just a minute, and also to have some AI generated images that look incredibly realistic and have a much better looking mock-up of your shirt in basically any environment, any vibe you're looking for. And that is something that could really make a big difference when you're selling your product. So with that being said, I'm gonna head over to my laptop and we can get started. So starting off on my laptop, you can copy the link from the description. I'll have links to everything we use in this video, or you can just go to etsy.com/sell, and that'll bring you to the Sellers Center of Etsy. You can click on Get Started if you don't already have an account. If you do, you can sign in right now. But because we don't have an account, I'm just going to type in my email. Then it'll ask me to create an account so I can enter my name and a password, and we can register. All right, now during the setup for an Etsy shop, there is a one-time setup fee. Depending on where you are, it might change. For me, it's $29, but there's no monthly fee after that. It's just one time to make sure there's not a lot of bots setting up on Etsy. So I'm going to say, let's do this. It's going to ask me a couple questions. You don't have to worry too much about what your answers are here. It really won't change a whole lot for us in the end. We can still do everything, but I'm going to say I have items that I design and I want to sell them for the first time. Now we can start our shop, and you'll see there are 6 steps across the top. We're going to start off with our shop preferences, your language, your currency, and stuff like that. I'll save and continue. We can then name our shop. So I'm just going to call this one Santrel Designs. We'll save that and continue. Oh, it looks like that was already, we have a space in there. You can't have spaces. Sorry. So no spaces, no special characters, Santrel Designs. We'll save and continue. And now we can tell Etsy a little bit more about what we're selling. So I'm going to be selling a physical product. This is print on demand, of course. And we could choose later if we want to sell shirts, hoodies, posters, whatever. But we're going to choose a category right here. Just for the first one, I'm going to say I'm selling maybe clothing. Let's say t-shirts. We'll just do t-shirts for now. And we can say down here, another company or person made it. And then when was it made? It is made to order. Now, down in the bottom, we have to add a production partner. This is not being literally made by us. Of course, we're using Gelato for this. So production partner, I'm going to say Gelato. And we'll talk about Gelato later on in the video. They do pretty much everything for you. So they'll do the printing, they'll do the packaging, they'll do the shipping for you. It'll send it directly to the customer. All that's done automatically when an order is placed. So you don't have to go on and like confirm orders and send it over. It's automatic, and it really handles it all for you. So we'll say they print, package, and ship my designs. We can choose their location. Now they have a couple locations. I'm just going to say Oslo, Norway here. And then we can choose why we're using this partner because I don't have the ability or equipment to make it myself. That's true. I don't have a t-shirt printer, or else I totally would do it at home. The role of them, I design everything myself, and their role in the production process, they do all the production for me. So I'm going to save and continue. And now we have to add some more details, stocking our shop essentially. So this is going to be just a little demo product. We can delete this later, just essentially a placeholder. So for the first thing, I'm just going to call it graphic t-shirt. Let's say Santrel Designs. And we have to add an image here. I'm just going to put any image here. Like I said, we're going to delete all of this later and have other products in our shop. But at least for now, we have to put one on to open our Etsy shop. So the description, I'm just going to call it our first t-shirt product. We're going to have this for $1, and we have one in stock, and then no variations. Ignore all of this stuff down here. Anything that's not required, I'm not going to enter it right now. Category, this can be t-shirts. We already have that. And once we set up Gelato with this, all of these things are going to be taken care of by Gelato. So don't worry about the shipping and stuff like that. Just enter whatever just to get your store open originally right now. Now on the bottom, renewal options, I'm going to manually renew this because it's going to cost 20 cents every time it expires and then renews. So I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to just, let this one expire, actually just delete it. But I want to make sure I don't accidentally leave this up. So we'll save and continue. We have to get a return policy. Let's apply that policy. We'll save and continue. And now we have our first listing. Great. Let's say do this later. I'm not going to add any more listings at the moment. So now we have to decide how we are going to get paid from Etsy. Now, Etsy is actually able to accept a lot of different payment methods from the end buyer, but that's not, of course, related to how you get paid. So they can accept credit cards and everything like that. Etsy will process everything and then they'll pay you out. And so we have to set up our bank account location. So choose the right country. Once you choose this, you're not going to be able to change this in the future, at least not very easily. And then for tax purposes, you choose if you're an individual or sole proprietorship. That's going to use in America at least your social security number. And if you're a business, you're going to have your EIN if you're in the US. Then below, we have to enter our details. I'm obviously not entering that on camera, so I'm going to enter that and then save and continue, and I'll see you guys on the next screen. And once your bank account is connected with Plaid, you can then continue, and you can connect with Plaid either manually by entering the numbers or automatically by just signing in with your bank's username and password. And now we have to verify our identity with a photo ID, a selfie, and then you're ready to go. So once your ID has been verified, you can continue shop setup. And the last thing you'll have to do is go into your email and confirm your email account. So I'm going to copy this over to that other browser I was using. But you could just click on it if you're using the same browser and you shouldn't have a problem. So let's go over here. I will paste that in to confirm. And we're ready to go. So your account should be all set. That'll bring you to this page where you have to enter your billing information. They're gonna have a credit card number. And like I said, that one-time fee of $29. And then it's like 20 cents to renew a listing. So very cheap once you get started, but this is like a little onboarding fee that Etsy decided to do. Now they have an offer for us. I'm just gonna skip this right now. We'll save and continue. Then we can set up two-factor authentication. So in the future, when you sign in, there's a second layer of safety to keep other people from stealing your account. So we could just do it with SMS. You could do an authenticator app. That's probably the best way to do it. Or you could do a phone call if you would prefer. Then lastly, click Create Shop. It'll take a minute and you'll be sent over to the Etsy dashboard. And that's pretty much everything we have to do for now from Etsy. There will be more to talk about here later, but now it's time to go over to Gelato and set up our actual products and connect that to Etsy. So for starting off with Gelato, you could either go to the link in the description or you could type in santrelmedia.com/gelato. And I'm going to put this in my browser. Now you could just go directly to Gelato's website, but going through this link, it does take you, of course, to Gelato, but you're now getting a little discount that's automatically applied where you get 50% off your first purchase within the first 3 days of creating an account. And that I think is really important because this could be essentially anybody buying anything on there. But really what I would like to do is buy samples of my products so I can then take photos and I'll be able to use those as marketing material. And getting 50% off that, I think is a pretty nice bonus. So let's say get offer, and that'll bring us to set up an account with Gelato. So I'm gonna sign up with my email, then I'm gonna verify my email account, and now we can get started with some basic questions here. Again, these questions don't matter that much. You can just say whatever you want, and it's not going to change. It's just going to change a couple things on your dashboard, but ultimately you'll be able to do everything you need to in the end. So I'm just going to select just some random stuff here. Let's say 0 for that. Expand your product range. Heard about it from, am I an influencer? Am I social media? I guess I'm an influencer. Santrel media. And I'm going to deselect that and we'll say finish. Now, right now, you'll notice that there was no entering of credit card information. There's no subscription required for Gelato. You can use it for free. There are subscriptions you can upgrade to, and I'll explain what those do later on. Generally, they're going to give you some little perks in terms of extra packaging options, some discounts on products and things like that. But to get started, it's nice that there is no required subscription. Now, from here, the first thing we have to do is connect our store. I'm going to connect it to Etsy, but if we look at view all integrations, you'll see there are a lot of things you can sell on. So you can sell on TikTok Shop, on Amazon, on WooCommerce if you have a WordPress site. Shopify is a really popular one, and I have made videos in the past about how to sell on Shopify. And if you're going to do this, you might as well sell on both Etsy and Shopify. So after this video, I recommend checking out that Shopify tutorial. So let's connect to Etsy. I'm going to click on connect. Now it knows that we're already signed into Etsy. So you can see it just linked over there. I just have to say grant access and it links up very easily. Basically one click linking there, which I'm really happy to see. Makes it a little bit more stress-free and easy for beginners. Now we can say publish our first product, or we could actually, let's publish our first product. That's probably the next step we want to do. Now, in here, you can see there's a very large library of products from Gelato, and they are expanding this, pretty continuously every time I go on here, but a really big variety. So on Etsy, I have a full separate video about how to make a design, but you want to look at some trends on Etsy. And in general, people are kind of getting away from a lot of the like super curated models wearing shirts or those mock-ups that you see. A lot of times people want to see more authentic stuff. They want to see different products. And so whether that is an embroidered product or a printed product that's a little more funky. Maybe it's a tote bag. No matter what, they want to have products that look real and authentic and a little bit different, but they also want to see photos that are going to be taken by you. So we are going to be ordering samples later on in the video, and I think that really does help a lot. We also have, of course, wall art, calendars, cards, like phone cases. And one thing that is relatively new, I think they did this maybe 6 months to a year ago, is Gelato added some really big brands. So if we go to brands, you can get like Comfort Colors, Under Armour, a ton of other brands that are very recognizable. And so if you're looking for not just generic Gildan 5000 t-shirts, but rather, a much higher quality or much more sought after material, you can go for like Comfort Colors, for example. So for our first product, I'm just going to go with the Comfort Colors shirt. I mean, like I said, depends on what you're trying to sell. I recommend experimenting with a lot of different kinds of products to see what works well on Etsy. And depending on when you're watching this, the landscape does change for Etsy. But in general, kind of summarizing what I talk about in my design tutorial, which I'll link down below. But the summary is, when you're making a design, what you want to do is find something that works in one niche. Find some format or phrase or type of design that's working really well in one niche, and bring that to an adjacent niche. So whether that is maybe like houseplants to like outdoor flower gardening, or I don't know, anything that you think might be a little bit adjacent. Maybe it's gardening to beekeeping. That's a really good example I used in the past. And using that kind of idea, you're able to find something that works really well, is a proven concept. You're not just guessing, and then you're bringing it to a new niche, which is very likely to adopt and really like that. This is also great for getting away from competition rather than jumping into the same space as everybody else. So going with that like gardening, beekeeping example, if everybody's making gardening shirts, then it's going to be very competitive, and you making a product is just going to get swept away. You have no reviews yet, and people are not going to buy your product. But moving into beekeeping or something like that is adjacent, that maybe has significantly less competition, means you're much more likely to get exposure and much more likely to start getting those sales. So that's kind of a key concept to keep in mind when you're making a design. Now, in the Gelato editor, I'm going to skip the tour because I'm giving you the tour right now and how this works. We can upload our design if you have an image. So I'm just going to upload. You can see on the left side, if I click on files, we can choose file, and I'm going to upload my first file for here. So let's go with this one. I'm going to say open, and we have our first image that we can move into here. Now, if I just, once it's done, you'll see the little blue bar on the bottom. So now it's ready. I can click on the plus, and then I'll just bring it into full size. We can then crop it or resize it. So I can resize, you see, like that. I can also crop it with the little kind of pill-shaped things on the sides, and it'll tell us the resolution on the top. So right now, 96 dpi is relatively low. Usually what you want to do is have, as they say right there, a minimum of 150. So I could either make this smaller until we have 150, but that's going to be quite small. Instead, you're better off finding a different design that is going to have a higher resolution. So for the sake of time, though, I'm just going to be using this one in this video. So let's use this one right now. And we have some options on the left side. So the first one is product. We can choose the sizes for the product. And because this is print on demand, we're not holding inventory. I usually recommend just having all the sizing options. Why limit yourself on who could be a customer when you can have all the options there? We also have a ton of different colors. So you can select multiple and say, all right, this is available in, all these different colors. And you'll see the images over here for each one. And you can kind of visualize them, say, all right, maybe the lighter colors look good with this design. Maybe I don't like this one. I'm going to delete those. And we can remove the colors that we don't like. So I will just keep, one or two colors in for now. Let's go with maybe the ivory one and the butter color. Then we can go down and add text. Now, Gelato does have their own tool, even though I usually make the designs elsewhere in Photoshop or Canva or something. You can make designs in Gelato very easily. So you can add text. You can have all these different layers. You can also add personalization. I'll talk about personalization a little bit later, but you see we've got the text right there, and you can move it around and edit everything as you would. We also have templates down here. We've got graphics. So if you want to add a little 4th of July, something like that, you can add all types of graphics that are kind of pre-made for us over on the left side. And layers, if you have multiple things on there, you can organize them to make one on top of the other. So it's going to be showing up a little more easily. We also have layouts down here if you want to have like a kind of a split view or have it perfectly split in half or biased to the left or something. Easy to set that up. Personalization allows end users to customize what's on there. So maybe like a bachelorette party, you want to have like the date of the wedding, or you want to have like a fun little saying on there, or the name of the bride, whatever it is. You can have the end user able to add their own information when they make the purchase on your design. And it could also be a photo, by the way. It doesn't have to just be text. And that personalization makes it better for the customer to buy something that you designed, but that they're really putting their own personal touch on. There's a few other things down here, but I'm going to continue to mockups. And within mockups, of course, we have a bunch of the basic ones. So every different product's going to have some different model wearing it, or sometimes just basic photos of the product itself. But one thing that Gelato added relatively recently, which until we get the products, I think is going to be a really nice kind of step in between, is the magic mockup. So if I click on magic mockups, we can give it a prompt and tell Gelato what we want this to look like. So it could be like some woman in a coffee shop reading a book or something like that. So let's generate our mockup, and you can play with these prompts. You can have them in, as they show you right here, urban outdoor or nature or studio, and you kind of can give it basically anything you want, and it does a surprisingly good job of designing a mockup or creating a mockup based on what you said that's going to show your product and make it look quite realistic. Now, this is something that is rolling out and I think is really impressive, but like I said, I still think there's a lot of value in taking photos yourself. So this is great to start, but we're going to order the product, we'll set it up, and you don't need to have a studio. It doesn't need to even be worn by anybody. You can have your product on a nice little dresser or a desk. You could throw a couple flowers or a coffee mug next to it or something. You could even set it outside on the grass, just like nice basic green grass on a nice day, and take a photo with your iPhone. And that usually does more than a sufficient job. Here we can see this mockup, like I said, actually looks very realistic. It looks really good. So I'm going to add this mockup, and we do get, I think, like 10 mockups per day. There we go, 9 out of 10 daily uses left. So you can make more mockups for the same product if you wanted to. So I'll select that one, and I will continue to details. Actually, one more thing with magic mockups, in case you want to make another one, it doesn't like automatically prompt you to make a new one. So what you have to do is click on back, and then from here, you can make a new mockup. The first one's already there, but you can make a new one, say preview design, and then that'll make your second mockup there. So actually, let's just do it. All right, this is pretty awesome. Another thing that you can do with magic mockups, which I didn't even realize until now, to be honest, is it doesn't have to be on a model. You could just say, the t-shirt laying in the grass on a nice day. It'll do that. I'm going to add this mockup because I have seen that style work fairly well on Etsy in the past. So we're going to do that. And also with your mockups, you can choose which one's your primary. So right now that's our primary. I don't really want that to be the primary, but unfortunately for now, we can't make these the primary. We can only make the predefined mockups the primary, at least for now. And if you want to add your own mockups, we can do that later on, but I'll say continue to details. And within details, we can choose the name for this. We can load it up with keywords. We can add a description on there, depending on how you're listing on Etsy, like what product you're listing and what niche you're in. You can obviously tailor this to your own needs. And you can also generate with AI. I usually recommend putting in the work and just doing it yourself, making the description. And you can read, like I said, check out those other listings that are in adjacent niches, see how they make their description, and then kind of use that same idea, that same tone or format in your own niche with this new product. And then we can continue to the prices, and we can choose the prices either overall for everything by just setting the margin to 50 or 65%. You can also set the margin or the profit to a specific amount. So maybe we want it to be like $10 profit for each one. Maybe we want it to be a retail price. So set them all to, make every single one of them like, I don't know, $17 or something like that, and it'll adjust all of them. If we say update, it'll adjust all of them accordingly. Now we do have some negative profit down here on the 3XLs and only 11-cent profit there, so I think $17 is not the right price. We can instead just say, let's do the margin to 50%, and I'll say update, and now we have all of our prices for everything. If you wanted to update individually, we can do that and say maybe 3XL, all the 3XLs are going to be $39. We could do that, or you could say, hey, just the ivory color is going to be $39.25, and we can have that. So you can customize the prices for every single one or as a group, and then we can continue to review. Now we have a big permutation, a lot of sizes, a lot of color, 2 different colors here. We can then publish that, and we will have our first product ready to go. Now you'll see we will have those 3 little dots right there. So we'll order a sample in a minute. We're going to do that a little bit later. But like I said, I promised you get half off, and there you can see you are getting half off. So I will close out of that. You'll see 3 dots. So green, good, red, bad. This is not even a product. That was like our demo product before. So we can actually delete that from our store. Let's delete that one, delete that from our Etsy store. And then down here, like I said, green dots are good. We've got 14 variants that are connected and ready to go. We have no variants that are not connected, and we have nothing that is ignored. So that is a really good sign. We've got one product ready to go on our Etsy shop. If we go back to Etsy, I could refresh this. Now we can explore our shop manager. We can see our listings, and the first one should be there. So now that we have our product here on Etsy, the next thing you do is add some more products. And to do that, you just click on add product on the top right, but kind of walking you through the rest of the dashboard here and then ordering a sample. I'm going to go over to the left side. You'll see the product catalog. We already talked about that. If you want to see any other products, just kind of browsing, they're all there. Orders, you can see who ordered what. You'll be able to track everything right here. You can also order a sample right here. That's one of the ways you could do it, and you will be getting that 50% discount as long as I mentioned before, you do it within the first, I think, 2 or 3 days. Then we have stores. So what are you connected to? If you want to also connect this to Shopify, you can have one gelato shop connected to both Etsy and Shopify. Very easy to have both of them running. Personalization studios on the left side. If you want to change how things are customized, you can set that up. That is a separate plan. So you have to pay for personalization studio to be enabled on your store, which, by the way, I haven't mentioned the other options for upgrading. So if I click on the top right and I go to subscriptions, it'll show me the different subscriptions options. So one of them is Personalization Studio, as I mentioned. The other two are Gelato Gold and Gelato Plus. Obviously, Gelato Gold is much more expensive than Gelato Plus, but with that, you are getting, a greater discount on the products. And if I say learn more, it should give us a table. There's the table right there showing you all the differences between the free plan, the plus, the gold, and of course the platinum. So you're getting 20 to 25% off products. You're getting premium mockup tools. You're getting more stock images, branded labels, and packaging inserts. Could be a good way to get more repeat customers or get more reviews, whatever the little card is that you want to ship with your actual product. And it does look a lot more professional. So it makes sense eventually to upgrade to Gelato Plus before going to Gelato Gold. But I think a lot of beginners, your first product or two, it could definitely be very viable to go with the free plan, which is free forever. Like, you don't have to worry about paying a certain subscription to sell on Gelato. But getting back to the Gelato dashboard, on the left side, branded packaging is there in case you ever do want to set that up. As I mentioned, that's going to be a little card in your packaging or on your packaging. Of course, we have analytics down here. We have Price Navigator, which can help you determine if your prices are fair and competitive, if other people are selling for more or less, and how you might want to change your product pricing there. Mockup Studio down here is another option, as I talked about before, for kind of creating the mockups. And that's essentially everything you need to know within Gelato. Now, let's place our first order so we can get that sample here. Now, if you go back to the home tab, you can place an order now. And as long as you're within the first 2 or 3 days, as I mentioned, you can save 50% either ordering here or ordering there, or you can order through your Etsy shop. So if you go back to your Etsy shop, you go to listings, you can place an order there, and that'll give you the more customer style experience, which I think is beneficial to see, what kind of emails do you get? Does it just say my shop, or is it the name of your shop? Like, how is everything really set up? And I think that really does have some value, but there are going to be, of course, extra fees, credit card processing fees if you're going through Etsy. But then at least you'll see where the money goes, how you can collect the money, and how it's all set up. Kind of helps to understand the whole process if you place an order there. But if you want to save money and just get the product in your hands, you can place an order directly from Gelato, either, like I said, clicking here or clicking there. Either one that you're going to do, though, within the Gelato dashboard as opposed to from Etsy. If you're doing it in Gelato, you will have to make the design again. So kind of just an interesting way they have that set up. So you can go down to the product we had before, comfort colors. We can choose the color. We can choose the size. We can choose this and say add to order. It'll have us re-add that design here. So let's re-add the design. We can say add to order. And then you can check out for like $7.50. Yeah, $7.50. So I think you guys know how a normal checkout process works. You can continue to shipping and buy that. But going back to Etsy, a couple more things I want to mention here. One thing that's really important is you want to increase your exposure as much as possible. Etsy is a great way to gain exposure, to get people to come to you without having to advertise. But in order to do that, they have this really nice tab on the left side called Etsy Search Visibility. So it'll tell you, some flags like, hey, right now your shop doesn't have an icon. So you can add a shop icon, and that makes it more visible and also people more likely to buy from you. They also have some other things in here. It'll always be telling you, what's at risk or what can be improved. And if you want to change anything about your store, you can see down on the bottom, Etsy sales channel, we can edit the shop by clicking on the pencil icon. and we can add a lot to this. Our shop currently doesn't have any kind of bio or seller details or anything, so you can fill this out with your profile photo, your shop photo, a banner, and everything like that. So now that we have our Etsy print on demand shop set up, there's two more things you want to do. One is you want to also set up your Shopify store so you can sell on Shopify as well as a second outlet. And the second thing you want to do is design more products to sell print on demand on Etsy or Shopify. And I'll have videos for both of those linked right here. You can check those out, and I'll see you in those videos.